Iniba, and thank you so much for tuning in to Hala Hala, your one-stop for the latest in entertainment news, lifestyle features, and community events. Today, meet successful entrepreneur Mel Lim of Mel Lim Designs. When she was just 19 years old, she traveled to the U.S., held 3 jobs, went to school, saved enough money to start her own company. Now, she is currently consulting for people from Fortune or businesses from Fortune 500 companies. Today, she shares her story. Welcome, Mel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming over. Now, I first read your story from Deborah Chen's Vanity and Trade website, and I was very inspired.
Wow.
So take me back, because I know your parents were entrepreneurs as well. Is that how you got into business?
Yes, so both my mom and dad, they both had passed, but I grew up in Malaysia, and they both didn't have tertiary education, but they've always been self-made, entrepreneurs.
Right.
My mom started her company. She started as a sales clerk and then moved up to managing director of a grocery store, and then ended up owning her own interior design, furniture making store in Penang, Malaysia. And my father did the same thing, from construction worker all the way to a developer.
Right.
So at a young age, my sister and I were exposed to that kind of environment of making your own path and your future. Yeah.
Now, is it true that in the beginning you didn't really want to start your own company?
Oh no. I mean, I saw my parents struggle so hard running their own businesses, and they both had gone bankrupt several times raising us. And my sister and I were always joking, today we joked about it, that we grew up as hungry children.
Right.
But because of that, witnessing separation of my parents and bankruptcy and not having enough money, we both didn't really want to own our business. We were like, no.
So what happened?
So I know, right? So my father gave me enough money, like a 1-semester tuition to go to Art Center here in Pasadena. And then in '97, the ASEAN, Asian economic crisis happened, and my father essentially told me, you have 2 choices. You can come back home to Malaysia, or you can stay there and do it on your own. And I'm like, I'm not going back home. I'm here.
You loved it here, right?
I loved it here, and so I just had to, learn how to make a living. And I applied for many jobs in school, and teaching assistants, part-time job, full-time job, whatever.
Yeah, whatever you could take. And I hear you were working like 100 hours a week.
Yes.
And going to school.
Yes, and I had a great job in Santa Monica, and I lived in Altadena.
Oh my gosh.
Imagine the traffic.
Yes,
imagine the traffic, and I had to be up at 4. I would drive all the way to Santa Monica, work until 2, and then I would drive back to Pasadena and stayed in school till like 2 a.m. in the morning, and then up again, a couple hours and go to.
What kept you going?
Well, I just didn't want to go home. I just had to make it work. Make my parents, proud.
Yes, and then you started your own company, I hear.
So after graduation, I worked in architecture for about 7 years, 6 or 7 years. I designed, stadiums, retail centers, essentially places to make people spend money. And then in 2003, I decided to start my own company.
Was that when you started designing greeting cards?
Yes, so there was a story to that. I was, my background is in architecture, and when I first started my company, I had such a hard time getting it off the ground. I didn't know the how to start a business, how to get insurance bonds for my profession as an interior designer and all that. So I was in this kind of a rut, and I still was doodling a lot, in my sketchbook. And I told my ex-husband at that time, I said, why don't we just, take whatever money we had left and go to a trade show. And we did. We schlepped everything into a van, and we drove all the way to LA, had one of those LA gift show thing. And then at the end of the show, we had 100 retailers that bought our designs, and that became the first business.
And then cut to years later.
So and then 2008 happened, and I was devastated. I mean, 90% of our retailers filed Chapter 11. It was so hard to even collect money from anyone.
Anybody, yeah.
Everyone was suffering. But then I remember joking to my friends, I'm like, that's my 4th bankruptcy, whatever. You know, I can deal with this. And I did.
Right.
You know, I paid off all my debt. It took me a whole year to pay everyone off, and then I started fresh again.
Yeah, what was the big learning experience from all of that, you think?
Oh my God, I was so unwilling to admit that I had failed. And I was in such a depressive mode. I was just like, oh my God, you know, does my business define me?
Right.
You know, what did I do wrong?
Right.
You know, but at the end of the day, I had to step back and say, look, it's time.
Right.
You know, and
there's just some things you can't control.
Right, and as soon as I folded that business, and then I started my consulting business, everything just took off. Yes.
So everything happens for a reason,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Not only do you have a design company or consulting company, but I hear you're also working on a book.
Yes. And raising 2 boys.
Yeah, and raising 2 boys. Tell us a little bit more about the book.
So it is a book about value creation. Like, how do you look at time and money and create meaningful experiences for people?
Okay.
So what we do today is essentially designing experiences for brands and companies to help them design experiences for their customers.
Right.
And we're, you know, over the years, in the last, you know, I would say 7 to 8 years, we've realized that, you know, people's motive in purchasing, they're so intrinsic. Sometimes people make purchases because it means something, you know, that's so deeply connected to some kind of memory that they had. So, and then some people make purchases because it's time, like they want to have more time to spend with their family. And I realized that I do the same thing too.
Exactly.
So the book is about that, to look at, you know, how to create meaningful lives and experiences for people, and looking at time as part of the aspect.
That's why, because the title is very interesting. I hear Turtle Design in a Rabbit Age.
Yeah, and I serve, you know, my studio is small. We have 6 people, all women.
Nice.
And we serve mostly, you know, people in the technology and big data space, and we're constantly, you know, producing products and software in such a high-speed mode in the rabbit age. But then I also realized that our process is quite, it's not slow, but it's very mindful about how we do things, how do we bring forth that focus and that thoughtfulness into the products and services that we do. So it's almost like the yin and yang.
It is. You gotta be able to balance it out, right? Now, lastly, for people that want to start their own business, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
Oh my God! I would say you must have grit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what my father used to tell me, you know, it doesn't matter what color, what school you went to, what pedigree you have, but as long as you have it in your stomach, you know, the desire to want to create something and make something that's impactful for people, you'll find a way.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Very inspiring. Thank you so much, Mel, for
you.
sharing your story with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Again, for more info on Mel, you can check out her website at Mel Lim Designs. Don't go anywhere because we have more entertainment and lifestyle news after the break.